My name is Shadow the Hedgehog, and welcome to Sonic Fan Game Reviews. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at Faker 2020, episode Me of Water. As some of you may remember, I did a review of the first Faker 2020 game, and... okay, don't worry, I'm not doing that voice the whole video. As some of you may remember, I did a review of the first Sonic 2020 game, episode White Jungle, and wasn't very pleased with it. I was blown away by the presentation, however the levels were too different from each other, forcing you to go into each one with a different mindset. The three core mechanics of Sonic, platforming, exploration, and speed were split into different levels rather than flowing together. There were tons of cheap death traps, and the second level was one of the most frustrating things I've ever played. However, I'm willing to give them a second chance with the sequel. After all, unlike Sonic Team, this fanbase often tries to improve in their follow-up games. So let's dive back into the lush forests of Sonic 2020 and see how the Mania team did. If there is one thing the first game did right, it was certainly the presentation. And this game definitely follows suit. We are once again treated to fully animated cutscenes and they look absolutely gorgeous. I love this shot where Shadow looks on at the forest. The juxtaposition between Shadow with his dark mechanical motorcycle against this bright, lush, and vibrant forest creates a great contrast. Hey, as a filmmaker, I know a great shot when I see one. I also love this moment where Shadow rides over the ramp and blows up all the egg pawns using chaos powers in slow motion. That is pure badassness right there. The soundtrack and graphics in episode Shadow are just as top notch as they were in White Jungle. Before we get started, I just want to warn you guys, if you try to download this game, don't use the red download button at the top of the page. Scroll down and use the Google Drive download link and follow the installation instructions. If you try to download episode Shadow using the big bright red download button at the very top of the page, the first thing you see, you're gonna have a bad time installing it. I don't know why it's like this. I didn't have any trouble downloading and installing the first game, but whatever. We got it now, let's get started. After all that mess, I was ready to finally jump in and start playing the game. But what's this? Episode White Jungle? Oh no. Oh no, it still makes you play episode White Jungle? Not only do I have to beat episode White Jungle, but it doesn't even let me start from level 2 where I left off. I have to start from the beginning. And worst of all, the cutscenes are still unskippable. Okay, so that scared me quite a bit. However, I didn't have nearly as much trouble beating these first 3 levels this time as I did before, because as it turns out, the Mania team listened to fan criticism and made some tweaks to these old stages to improve them. In level 1, you no longer have to double jump after being launched from the slingy thing. Remember that part where you get insta-killed by Infinite just for going off the beaten path? Well, they've now replaced him with a completely harmless red ring. And there's been tons of improvements made to the second level Tree Palace. There's now a lift platform that takes you out of the water at the beginning, the switches are easier to see, and they added more checkpoints. There's been tons of other little changes made as well that just make this first episode a much more bearable experience. There's still no foreground culling and no drop shadow, but the changes that were made make these levels far less frustrating than they were before, and I appreciate the devs putting in the time to fix things that fans have criticized. I actually found myself having quite a bit of fun playing these. So begins the main event. What is the gameplay of Sonic 2020 episode Shadow of Water like? Wait a minute. Shadow of Water? I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Unlike that faker Sonic, Shadow has some chaos powers in his arsenal. Chaos Blast, Spear, Dash, and Control. I really like the way this game handled Shadow's chaos powers. You switch which power Shadow uses with the D-pad, and he can use them as long as you have energy in the energy bar. Each one does something unique that helps you either traverse tricky parts of the level, open doors, or smash enemies. I'm not quite sure what Chaos Control does in this game, if anything, but the rest of them all work well. I'm not sure if I'm just doing something wrong, or missing something, or if it just hasn't been programmed in yet, but I couldn't seem to get Chaos Control to do anything noticeable aside from make Shadow glow blue for a second. Quick edit, Knuckles from the future here. I just noticed while I was reviewing the footage that Chaos Control is actually slowing down time. But it's slowing it down by such a tiny amount that you can barely even notice it when you're playing unless you stare at the timer. Aside from Chaos Control though, each move is useful for something, easy to get to, and well explained to the player in the first level. They add an extra layer to the gameplay. The first level features Shadow tearing through a GUN arsenal.
Shadow is tearing through our ass!
No, Vector, a GUN arsenal. Get your head out of the gutter.
Ass!
Let's get the positives out of the way first. This level looks freaking cool. I love the color scheme and the aesthetics. Everything looks very high tech, but maintains that look we recognize from the GUN stages from the main games. On top of that, I'd say the level design here is definitely a step up from that of episode 1. Instead of separating platforming, exploration, and speed into their own stages, the Mania team has now managed to implement a good balance of all three into every stage, making the stages much more consistent and better designed for Sonic and Shadow to traverse. However, some parts of this first stage really are just as painful as
Shadow tearing through our ass!
Why? In a game where the camera follows perfectly behind the character, is there a section with spinning platforms? This section almost literally made me dizzy in real life. I'm no developer, and honestly, I still don't fully understand how much of the game is set in stone by the framework they're using, which in this case is the Infinity Engine, but Mania team, if you do have the ability to control the camera, please, for the love of chili dogs, just have it zoom out to a set position for sections like this. Kinda like this section in Sonic Unleashed. It makes these types of things much less irritating to navigate through. There are also many sections in this level in which you can get stuck in a room and have to smash all the enemies before you can leave. Normally, I'm not a fan of these being in Sonic games, but I don't mind it too much here because I feel like this type of level design fits Shadow a bit better than Sonic. Shadow can deconstruct these robots more quickly than Sonic thanks to his chaos powers. These sections are kept very short, the enemies never respawn, and doors stay open even after you die, so these sections are pretty harmless here. Overall, this first level was mostly decent, but still took me almost half an hour to beat thanks to those damn spinning platforms. Okay, so I apologize. At this point, I had to turn my graphics settings down because the lag I was getting was making the game almost unplayable. So I apologize for the low quality gameplay footage from this point forward. As I mentioned earlier, the developers made the much needed improvement of keeping these levels fairly consistent. However, I still have to make a completely separate section to talk about level 2 because, oh boy. The second level of Shadow of Water starts out a lot better than the first level. It's very open, there's wiggle room with your jumps, and I was actually starting to have fun with it. But as the level goes on, it just gets worse, and worse, and worse. I ended up getting stuck in this dark room with a bunch of robots you have to destroy. And I got stuck here for like forever because it's actually not about destroying the robots. It's about whether or not you use Chaos Blast. Why does that work? No idea. And good luck figuring out that that's what you're supposed to do because you can't even do Chaos Blast in this room unless you walk into these air pockets in the corners of the room. These corners of the room don't look any different than the rest of the room, they just look like corners of the room. I was stuck here for 10 fucking minutes.
Huh? You are poaching me?
Nice JoJo reference, by the way. Thanks to this section, I had to look up a walkthrough to beat level 2. And I found out I'm not alone in my feelings either. See? He knows what I mean. Huh? So there's a really bad boss fight coming up? Alright, let's see how bad it is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is, oh my god. I can't even, oh my, whoa. I did it. Oh, look, I did it. I hit him. I did it. Okay, where do I even begin with this boss fight? I guess I should explain how it works first. The idea is you jump off these springs and homing attack the weak point on his head. Simple enough. Here's why it sucks. First of all, the camera only looks at Shadow the whole time, so you don't know when the boss is about to attack you. This also means when you bounce off the springs, you have a very high chance of immediately getting hit. he has 3 ways of attacking you: spinning his arms around like Egg Golem from SA2, slapping you, which can happen anytime when you're not expecting it, and worst of all, shooting this pink stuff that homes in on you. Lastly, his health bar is humongous. Even if I wasn't getting attacked, it would take all day to kill this guy. Each homing attack chips away like this little tiny bit of the health bar. You know what I just realized? This Vortex boss is basically what would happen if Egg Golem was in Sonic 06. Like seriously, who playtested this fight and said, yeah, this is fine? And I couldn't beat him. I'm sorry. I know it ain't right, but I tried a few attempts at this boss and just said, no. I'm not gonna put myself through this boss just to beat a game that I know I probably would have stopped playing a whole level ago if I wasn't trying to record it for a review. So I'm done. If you enjoy this game enough that you can put up with this and pass through this boss fight, then more power to you. That's awesome. But I just can't do it. Is this game better than Episode White Jungle? Yes, definitely. But is it good? I'm sorry, but I have to say no. I really wanted to like this game, and I can tell that the Mania team put a lot of work into this, and that they're trying to listen to fan criticism, which is great. But there's still just too many major issues here. Every level took me at least 20 minutes to beat, there's so much trial and error, searching for things hidden off screen just so you can progress, and eventually it gets to the point where everything starts to feel like a chore. However, as I said in my Episode White Jungle review, and as I will always say, please be respectful to the developers and don't send any hate their way. I'm criticizing the game here, not the people who poured their blood, sweat, and tears into making it. I'd even encourage you to check out this game, even if it's just for the story and visuals, because like I said, those are fantastic. With that being said, this has been Knuckles. Feel free to check out my other fan game reviews as well as my short film channel Epic Zacko, and I think you know what's coming next.
Okay.